Welcome back to the Reality Guys. I'm your host Brian, along with my co-host Lou.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
We're back to here to cover Alone, season 10, episode 9. This one was called Splintered, and I'm actually really happy that Lou is back this week because the title is something that Lou has been looking forward to probably for a few weeks now. He's been waiting for this moment where Wyatt pulls this piece of wood out of his arm, and we kept seeing that scene, Lou, where he's like looking at it. I was like, oh, it must be this one. It must be this one. And I know like you were busy last week and stuff like that, so I'm actually really happy that this is the week you're
Right.
here and you can talk all about
Right.
it. I know you've been looking forward to it.
It's just crazy to me that he's had that in there. I think they said 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I know from past seasons they get a medical check every week. So the fact that they didn't like take a look at that and see like, oh, you have something in there, which brings up like another question. I mean, we always bring up questions about behind the scenes stuff on this
Mhm.
show, but like if you see something like that as a medical person, right, do you intervene in a like are they allowed to get medical treatment during their checkups, or is that against the rules, right? Like if you are sick, do and like and you take like antibiotics or something like that, does that automatically eliminate you from because that's kind of against the spirit of the game, right?
Yeah, I think they could maybe give you a bandage, but
Right.
like I don't think like you said, if they give you medicine, I think you're done.
Right. But like in this case, like if they looked at it and say, "Oh, you still have a splinter in there," and they go and take that splinter out, like is that allowed, or did they like did the people know like, "Oh, you probably have something caught in there, but we can't intervene because that goes against the nature of the show," you know?
Right. And he did say that he hit it on one of
Right.
the med check. I keep saying web checks. I don't know why, but the med checks, and it's possible that he just hit it because he knew that if they saw the size of his forearm being swollen, that they probably would have been like, "Yo, you need to get that looked at."
Right.
You
Right.
don't know
Right.
what the infection is. Like if it's that's like like when it was that swollen, I thought like, oh yeah, something's going on like bacteria. But when it's just a piece of wood, I mean, it still sucks. But
Right. And I also like with that too. I know he hit it like from the med people, but like I wonder when they check the video. Like, do they only check it at the end of the
I think
competition, or
the
do
end,
they?
yeah, I think the end.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that makes sense. But like, because I know they switch out cameras, right? Like, because those
I
batteries
think
don't always like
I think
last
they
enough.
give them like battery packs.
Got it.
But they might give
Got it.
them video too
Yeah,
if
that's
they're there
interesting.
longer, but maybe they don't watch it. But I just don't. I don't know. These are all
Yeah.
good questions that I can't answer, and I know you can't answer.
Right. Right.
And it would be nice to know these things, and they do explain it sometimes. But these like deep cut questions, I think like not a lot of people are asking those questions. Like,
Right.
are they watching the film back when they refill batteries? I just don't
Right.
think the average person's watching that. But
No, that's true.
Wyatt, I was worried about him for a little bit. I mean, he's in the final three,
Right.
but where do you stand on him?
So, like I said, I mean, the last time I was on the show 2 weeks ago, I said he was one of my top people just because of his mindset. Like
Yeah.
Allen, well, so let's take a step back. So we had four at the beginning of the episode, dropped one. Melanie, our last woman, has exited the show, in a little bit disappointing fashion, in my opinion. Anytime a contestant leaves on their own accord because of like loneliness, I think is always a disappointment to me. I always want to see them go out, maybe a little bit against their will, like
Okay.
they're starving and they get like a med check failure, or like they get injured or something like that. But she just, she was recently engaged before she got out here, and she just
Mm.
got lonely and left, which, like I said, I haven't ever gone, I think, 24 hours without talking to someone, or I can't keep my mouth shut. So I can't really
Right.
judge too hard. But, you know, I do think that if you're going to participate in there, and like she even said, like the money wasn't her thing, it was more about the experience. But like if you're going to participate in something like this, you got to be in it to win it, in my opinion.
And that yeah, that's kind of like where like Mikey I think is like I think he is
100%.
equally as like missing his family and his son.
Right,
He needs that money so he has that extra motivation to go through as of this point from
right.
what we've seen.
And he also talked about his son's birthday like
Yeah.
being during the time of the competition, in 10 days, he said. And it is, I think he has the best storyline. I think most people will root for him. For those of you who haven't tuned in previously or haven't, missed the show, he has a son with autism that he's trying to win this money so he can afford
Mhm.
the extra care,
Okay.
which I think is a bigger motivator than anyone left. And I think throughout the
I
competition,
can I can
a
agree with
bigger
that.
motivator for. Um, but going back to Wyatt, I think Wyatt doesn't seem to have that tether as much as everyone else does.
Right. The back
Alan says he's
loneliness.
missing his wife and kids, and Mikey's obviously feeling that too. Wyatt hasn't really expressed any of those. He
That's
seems
true.
to be the most mentally positive about him being out there by himself. And I actually do recall at all what his like background is as far as like his family relationships and stuff like that. Is he married? Is he
I don't
single?
remember, man. It's bad, but we're 9 episodes in. I don't
Yeah.
remember.
Well, I
I'm
just like
still
I just don't think he's mentioned it too much. That's why I said like he doesn't mention it that often. So
right. Yeah, he's too busy losing fishing lures and having
yeah.
things in his body. Just real quick on Mikey because we did kind of touch on him, but I think my only worry about Mikey is when that birthday comes. If they're still
Mhm.
there, I think that is going to be his biggest hurdle.
Oh,
And
100%.
if I'm hoping that, I mean, at this point, I'm kind of rooting for him as well. I mean, I like
Mhm.
all the people left. Like whoever wins, I'm not going to be upset about it. But like you said, best storyline. I'm hoping it doesn't get to that point because I think he will tap that day or the day after.
I think
He said he
I
never
think there's
missed.
a possibility. I don't I hope that doesn't happen.
I don't.
It's a
I hope it doesn't
possibility.
either. But that's going to be his biggest test.
Right, right. I agree. I agree. I mean, mental things like that can really, like you said, break a person, especially when you're out there.
Right.
Um, Speaking of birthdays, Alan had a birthday today, caught a fish. Good for him. I mean, and Wyatt too got another two grouses, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
surprised. I mean, like I said, I was expecting a hard drop off as the temperature started dropping.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem to be the case. Uh, doesn't seem to be as getting as cold as quickly as we predicted.
Yeah.
Still a little bit of greenery out. It is, some ice and stuff, but we saw Mikey getting some berries. The one thing I was surprised about was whenever they take risks that like are outside the box, like this episode, Wyatt just picked up some unidentified mushrooms and was like, "Hey,
Yeah.
I'm just
I'm gonna eat
gonna,
this.
eat these mushrooms and see what happens." I can't imagine like being that flippant with something like that.
Yeah, the words on that screen, they were flying in when he was like, "Don't do this. This
Yeah,
could kill you." Like he was like
please.
flying in. I was like, "Uh-oh."
It was all the legal statements that you could possibly pop up as like,
Right.
uh,
Don't do this on any
because
circumstance.
I mean, he had some indicators, right, that are
Yeah, he said,
logical
yeah, squirrels.
that they weren't poisonous. Like he said, like, uh, oh, like there's some chew marks on these that like indicate like mouse and squirrels are can eat them and they're edible. And then he put some in his lip. So like that's like an old like technique where like if you're unsure if a plant is poisonous or not, if you put it in your lip and your mouth starts tingling, like it's an indication that it is poisonous and you
Say,
shouldn't eat it. And he did that, but like everything that came up on that screen was like even though he did this,
yeah,
some poisons don't activate for 6 to 8 hours, and even
right,
if you cook it, it still won't get rid of all the toxins.
right. And his like bite, he's like, "Oh, there's squirrels eating this," and it said like mice and squirrels, the poison doesn't affect them like it
Yeah,
affects them. And it's just
right,
like
right.
one after the other, bang, bang, bang. It's funny, but
Uh,
it's like, God, I hope why it doesn't go out. Like that's just
no,
we don't want somebody to die out there.
no. And I don't. I actually think he'll be okay, but it's very funny
It's
the,
funny.
the statements they just put up on the
Yeah.
screen.
Hmm.
Um, what else? I mean, we're getting pretty deep into it.
Yeah, it comes to the point we were talking pre-show. When it starts to get colder, and we know it's not that cold, they're in the shelter a lot, so it's a lot of monologues. It's not a lot of like action like there was in the beginning, where like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna build this, I need to do this. It's very routine, like check the gill net, go fish, go to sleep, and that's pretty much
Right.
it.
right. So,
So it's just kind of
you
like those three. Like, where do you say? Like, who is your who do you think is gonna win with the three?
I hmm, I think honestly, any three of them have a good shot. If I were to say right now, you would press me at the end of this episode, I would say Allen, just on the surface, probably has the best chance of winning. I think he has the biggest cache of food, and
Hmm.
that's the only reason I think. On the flip side of that, though, I think he is the most mentally susceptible to just tapping out because of loneliness.
Yeah, I also
Um,
agree with that.
right. So like I said, Wyatt doesn't seem to be affected by being out there by himself at all. He's a pretty positive guy, which can do a lot for you.
Yeah.
Um, and he's dealt with some adversity in the past where it doesn't make me believe that if something goes wrong, he's just gonna tap out,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
I think Mikey has the most motivation to go far, but just in flat out situationally taking all the emotion out of it, I think Allen has the best storage, and honestly, it feels like he gets the most fish and food in his area.
From what we see, yes.
Yeah. So from what we see. So that's what I'm thinking. He probably has the best chance of staying longer, but any of these guys can win
Yeah, 100%. My
for
fear
the
with
reasons I
Allen
said.
is we talked about this is like when you reference missing something as often as Allen has, like he always is remembering like something about his
Mhm.
dad, something about something, and that always worries me because that was like started to be the Melanie path where she's like started talking about Brian a lot, like started talking about those circumstances
Right.
like back home, and like that was that worry that's always a worrisome. So I'm gonna just
What
go
about
different.
you?
I'm gonna go Wyatt. I think getting that splinter out, if those mushrooms don't kill him, I
Yeah.
think he's gonna be the guy. I'm gonna
Yeah.
go Wyatt.
You
I want Mikey. I obviously want Mikey, but
yeah,
I haven't
and
seen
actually when you
him
said
do
that, I
anything.
do want Mikey, but I think
We haven't seen him do anything, so that's what worries me. Like
right.
he's eating
Like
just a mouse.
right. He ate a couple nuts, which I will say, out of all of them, like against Allen too. I mean, I guess it's really good that he has the food cache
Hmm.
that he does with the fish because he seems less likely to eat things that like are
Beneath him.
outside his range of comfort.
Yeah.
Yeah, like 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 Mikey ate four rats,
Yeah.
and Alan caught a rat, and even Melanie caught a rat and ate it. Alan caught a rat, and I don't think he ate it. They didn't show him eating it, so I don't think he did. And he's let a couple of animals go, which were against the rule. But again, we talked about like they're really hungry, like what's stopping you?
Right. Right.
um, but yeah, so yeah, I think wide, like I said, good choice. All of them are good choices.
Hmm.
You have different reasons to root for them each time, but um, yeah,
Yeah, and let us know
that's
if anybody watching. Let us know who you think is going to win. Let us know why, because I mean, I'm always just curious that we're curious to know what other people are watching, how they're watching the show, how they're viewing it. Like maybe our points aren't the same as yours, and we'd love to know.
yeah, yeah. Um,
You got anything
yeah,
else before we get out of here?
nope. That's pretty much it. Excited for the next episode. We'll see how many more episodes we have left in the season because we're in the double digits now, so we're getting close to the end. Only three people left, and hopefully, I do want to see them deal with a little bit more of the elements. I think that does get a little bit more interesting, even though they're staying in their shelter more. When
Hmm.
like the conditions are harsh and frozen, I do think you get a little bit more excitement with that too. So
Definitely. So next week, Lou and I are actually going to be somewhere together. So it's very possible maybe we could do a show on in the same location.
oh
Where
yeah,
maybe I'm just putting it out there into the universe. Don't know if that's going to happen because we are going on a bachelor party, but we
yeah.
don't golf, and there's a golf event. There's a couple time periods that we could do it. So just putting that out there. Tom will be there. Another loner. Like we could have a little
Oh yeah,
discussion
that'd
maybe.
be interesting to get
Yeah,
Tom
so
back.
I'm just putting it out. I'm putting it out in the universe. I'm not going to promise anything to the viewers, but it would be nice to maybe have like go back to the old days where Lou and I used to do shows together in the same location.
Right,
We
right.
can, we
That
can bring it back.
maybe have a couple beers and it's like the old times too.
Yeah, for sure, man.
Really let the opinions fly.
Yeah, right, right, right. So we'll be back next week for episode 10. And I think after this, there's got to be at least 12 episodes, maybe 11. I don't know, man.
I
There's
mean, it might be one of those things where they
Double
do
tap next week or
one
something.
episode or like one long episode, right? Like a 2 hour episode.
Yeah, it
They've
could.
done that before. So
And one more thing, also next, there's also what I don't know if you heard Lou because you weren't on last week. There is a UK Alone that just started last week that I haven't been able to catch up on. I'm gonna try to figure out how to watch that. And also apparently next week I think is Australian Alone after
ooh, I
this
did see that.
after it premieres after I think this because this show's on at 9 or 8 or 9 and the other one's on at 10. I might be wrong here. Let me check I have like my notes. Yeah, August 10th, Alone
Okay.
Australia on History Channel. So that's this coming week. So I'll definitely check that out. And I can't promise that we're gonna do a review, but I'll definitely give it a try and maybe we'll see. Could be something else that we do.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, and we're talking about like the past alone. I mean, we've always had a Canadian or Alaskan
Hmm.
environment. So it being in Australia in the bush is a
Well, I
completely different
don't know if
ballgame.
it's in Australia. That's the thing,
Oh,
because
you don't? It's Australian
The
contestants?
UK alone is in Canada.
Okay.
So I don't
Okay.
know the location on this one. I didn't do any research on it. I just saw it on, I don't know what I was doing, but I think I saw a commercial. You know what I was doing? I was watching this week's episode and it had I
Like
go by
Australian
shows.
alone. I
It
saw
said
that too.
Australian Alone. I just clicked on it and I was like, oh, when did this start? And it starts this
Yeah.
coming week. So we will try to check that out.
Perfect.
Can't promise it this weekend, but I will get something out there, maybe a tweet, and we can figure something out. But we love the show. We're gonna try to watch as much as we can, any iteration, especially if it's somewhere else, like you said in Australia, we have to watch it because the animals are
Oh,
that's a whole different game.
yeah. Different ball game. Different ball game. The fact that it's going to be in a desert and that like you have to
Yeah, I
fight the
hope I'm
water
praying.
different.
Even if they go back to like Patagonia or like South America, the one time they did anything different than Canada, I mean, I like it, but I'd like to have a little switch up or something like that.
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Yeah. Something a little bit different,
Yeah, for
different
sure.
situations.
All right, we will be back next week, maybe live, maybe not, but we'll be back for episode 10. But for myself and Lou, thanks for watching. See you.
See you later, guys.